The courtroom just turned into a straight-up war zone. Pooh Shiesty stepping right up to Gucci Mane, putting him on blast with some wild, explosive snitching accusations that had the whole room shaking. That unbreakable brotherhood they built under the 1017 banner? Totally dead. Now it's just ugly, a completely public shootout of bad blood and heavy accusations. Pure betrayal, street politics at its absolute messiest. And the spiral isn't stopping anytime soon, especially with Shiesty dragging other names into the mud and turning the whole game upside down. Then the feds brought the real hammer down. April 2nd, 2026. The DOJ steps to the mic out in Dallas, Texas, and drops a bombshell that literally froze the entire hip-hop culture dead in its tracks. 9 heads swept up. And we're talking about a lineup that includes the game's most hyped comeback kid, suddenly catching federal kidnapping and armed robbery paper. But the craziest part, the victim in the middle of this absolute circus is literal trap music royalty, a certified legend. Look, this wasn't some Twitter gossip, no rap blog hearsay. This was the United States government waving a rock-solid criminal complaint in our faces. Full press conference, a sickening amount of receipts including, get this, literal ankle monitor pings. They had the cameras rolling, fingerprints, rental car sheets, Greyhound bus stubs, you name it. The feds had the paperwork pulled, plus the usual crash-out move, flexing the snatched ice on the gram literally the next morning. Make it make sense, right? Sitting right at the top of that Fed document, Lantrell Williams Jr. The streets know him as Pooh Shiesty, and the guy he supposedly jammed up, the man staring down the barrel of an AK pistol, being forced to sign away a record contract, his own big homie, his label boss. His mentor, the exact same dude who handed him his chain, held him down while he was locked up in the feds, and never wavered. He kept him breathing on the roster when every other artist was getting cut loose. Gucci Mane. So how do we get here? Listen, this doesn't kick off with some weak diss record or internet typing. No sneak disses. It starts in a freezing federal court. Real-life consequences. Charges heavy enough to bury Shiesty under the jail forever. April 2nd, 2026. U.S. Attorney Ryan Ray Bell steps to the podium in the Northern District of Texas and breaks the news. 9 people bagged. The sweep grabbed Pooh Shiesty, his own pops, Lantrell Williams Sr., and his Memphis blood brother, Big 30, born Rodney Wright Jr.
This week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas.
Then the prosecutor maps out the government's play-by-play.
As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint. The remaining conspirators displayed firearms and robbed the other victims of Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items.
This wasn't some studio session gone left over bruised egos. The feds are calling it a calculated, military-style raid on the building. Then dropped the detail that literally broke the culture's collective brain.
Electronic monitoring data placing Williams Jr. at the offense location, which would put him in violation of his home detention conditions.
And the feds just checked their own computers to place him at the robbery. DJ Academics read the paperwork live on stream, and honestly, his reaction was exactly what we were all screaming at our screens, stepping out to pull a federal kidnapping while a literal Fed-issued tracker beams your coordinates to the cloud. You can't make this stuff up. Let's talk real numbers now, because the weight of the hammer dropping here is absolutely devastating. Every single one of the 9 defendants caught federal kidnapping under 18 U.S.C. paragraph 1201. Add kidnapping conspiracy to that. Toss in a Hobbs Act armed robbery for good measure. State boys aren't handling this. This is the federal machine, ruthless guidelines, penitentiary time, and prosecutors boasting a flawless win rate. They do not play. Some reporter in the crowd asked about the potential time these guys might serve.
So there's no mandatory minimum in this case. It's a range of punishment, and it'll be in the province of the judge, whoever gets the case. But it could be from 0 all the way to life imprisonment.
Wrapping up the final stretch of a 63-month federal sentence down in the Southern District of Florida for guns. Catching new Fed cases while on paper? That's what the suits call an aggravating factor. In street terms, they're going to cook you. 8 of the 9 got snatched up on April 1st, 2026. Dallas, Memphis, Nashville, all hit at once. One ghost remained loose during the press run. Agents actively sweeping the streets trying to bag him. The FBI Dallas Violent Crimes Task Force didn't move alone. They linked up with Memphis field offices. Nashville, Little Rock, Birmingham, and Atlanta all working together. A massive, synchronized sweep hitting multiple cities at the exact same time. This was a whole military maneuver. Look, the feds didn't just throw this together. They'd been building this multi-state manhunt since January.
That was one of the reasons I wanted to list off some of the evidence that has been uncovered to date. A lot of this was subpoena work, search warrant work, and things like that in order to develop the investigation.
His camp and Gucci himself. But Guwap didn't hide. He jumped on live to tackle it directly. But before all that, you gotta understand how Pooh Shiesty Y and Gucci Mane crashed out like this. Because this brotherhood that supposedly ended staring down a barrel inside a Dallas studio actually started as hip-hop's realest mentor rookie dream team. Figuring out how that bond shattered makes the puzzle fit. Going straight from OG mentor to catching the barrel. To grasp January 10th, 2026. Rewind to June 2020. 6 years before Pooh Shiesty Y allegedly shoved an AK in Guwap's grill to force those release papers, Gucci Mane actually handed Pooh Shiesty Y a pen, giving the kid his absolute golden ticket out the trenches. Gucci brought Shiesty Y into 1017 Records, that heavy-hitting joint deal he ran with Atlantic Records, around June 2020. Shiesty Y was already making street noise with independent bangers like Hell Night and Back in Blood. Raw, young, straight out Memphis. Gucci looked at him and saw a street reflection absolutely worth betting his chips on, not just some standard industry paperwork. Guwap practically handed Shiesty Y a brand new Trackhawk right out the gate. The culture watched a royal coronation, an OG trap god passing the street flame to the new blood. They cooked up absolute heat together, tore down stages side by side, spitting on joints like Still Together, and totally owning Gucci's So Icy Summer compilation tape. Then February 2021 hit. Shiesty Y dropped his freshman tape, Shiesty Y's Season. Smashed number 4 on the Billboard 200. Gucci featured on it. Gucci popped bottles for it. Looking from the outside, absolute rap perfection. The ultimate success story. But the trenches never let go easily, and the streets were already tugging Shiesty Y. Before stepping foot inside that Dallas studio in January 2026, he'd already taken a harsh ride through the federal meat grinder. And those bloody footprints from his first conviction basically write the blueprint for this new disaster. Rewind to October 2020, the exact year he inked with WAP. Shiesty Y caught himself in a wild Florida shootout at the Landon Hotel. 2 people caught hot lead in what the feds labeled a street transaction, turned sour weed, lean, and designer kicks. Both targets lived. The feds, though, they don't forget. The Department of Justice eventually revealed that Shiesty Y's gun conspiracy plea actually wrapped up 3 entirely different violent acts. A July 2020 gunfight at a Memphis pump, that bloody October 2020 Florida hotel mess, plus an armed assault during a May 2021 Miami strip club brawl. By January 2022, Shiesty Y took a plea. 1 count of scheming to hold firearms to push violent street crimes and hustle dope. They wiped 3 heavy charges off the board. One of those literally carried a threat of life behind bars. The judge handed down 63 months in the federal pen. But through all that madness, through handcuffs, court dates, guilty pleas, and the final gavel dropping, Gucci Mane didn't flinch, keeping that contract breathing. Kept Shiesty Y proudly stamped on the 1017 roster. Dropped tracks while he sat in a cell, even pushing Shiesty Y Season certified in 2022. That actually means something. A CEO completely throwing his weight around for a rapper fighting a massive federal gun case. That's pure street loyalty, or at least the shiny illusion of loyalty when cameras are flashing. But while Shiesty Y ate chow in the feds, a massive earthquake shifted his relationship with Gucci, and it had zero to do with streaming checks, advance money, or bad paperwork. Shiesty Y's blood cousin, Big Scar, Alexander Woods, also repping that 1017 chain, passed away in 2023. Barely lived. That tragedy gutted Shiesty Y's family, leaving a bleeding hole in Memphis hip-hop. What came next? Street chatter says it was a total, violent breakdown. Word around the curb was Scar's family felt abandoned, claiming Guwap barely pitched in for the funeral. Ugly accusations flew next. Whispers that Gucci pressed Scar's grieving relatives, demanding those 1017 chains back right after he passed. The streets say this specific incident was the point of no return. A bitter grudge Pooh, Shiesty Y, and Big 30 dragged into every single 1017 label conversation afterward. Look, it's tough verifying every single piece of dark street gossip from the sidelines, but the damage stuck. It proved that untouchable Big Homie Bond actually had strict limits. That once blood got involved, Gucci's legendary loyalty hit a brick wall, feeling highly real inside Shiesty Y's camp. Rotting in a federal cage, grieving his cousin, watching his family get completely disrespected, just counting the days until he could touch road and aggressively flip his whole career script. Fast forward to October 2024. Gucci cleans house, dropping most 1017 artists while complaining online about terrible profit margins bleeding his pockets. Almost everybody caught the axe, but not Shiesty. Gucci kept him and Fujiano, but Shiesty Y was the franchise player, the absolute heavy hitter Guwap bet the house on. Looked like insane public faith. Gucci could have cut him loose. He didn't. Played the loyal OG in his corner. Then the script flips. Shiesty Y left the feds early in October 2025. now on home detention with an ankle monitor, yet officially free. By then, his original paperwork was basically dead or screaming for renegotiation. And the cash Gucci tried sliding across the table? Well, according to street chatter and the literal language plastered inside the federal complaint, not the payout Shiesty Y expected. Man had a top 4 billboard project. He dropped FDO, and the culture ate it up instantly. He held actual weight in the game now. Word on the street was Yo Gotti's camp at CMG. Gucci's absolute oldest ops basically were aggressively sniffing around, looking to poach Shiesty. Why? Lethal mix right there. You got a young star feeling shortchanged, bloodthirsty rivals in the cut, and an executive refusing to fold. The feds spelled it out strictly. Williams Jr. was completely sick over his paperwork and just wanted to tear up his deal. Boom. There's your motive. The feds claim this exact frustration lit the fuse for January 10th's absolute chaos. No internet trolling, no petty rap beefs, just cold, hard industry politics. Shiesty Y felt robbed on his splits, and supposedly, he bypassed the suits and tried to handle the boardroom with a compact AK and some pre-typed release forms he already had sitting on deck. The wildest, most tragic irony here? Dude was literally just on camera calling Gucci his ultimate idol. Right after doing his bid, during that big XXL sit-down, Shiesty Y broke down how much Guwap inspired him, watching the trap legend catch freedom and reinvent himself. He said he studied that. Quoting the boss directly, he claimed Gucci told him man to man, "You're hitting my 35-year-old hurdles at barely 20. You got a serious head start." He stamped Gucci as his spark, swore the advice resonated deep. Clearly, it wore off quick. Flash forward, January 10th, 2026, Dallas, Texas. Some generic office park studio tucked right off the Dallas Parkway. What goes down next is pulled straight out of the Fed's paperwork, sworn by FBI Special Agent Brittany Garcia, filed down in the Northern District of Texas courts. This is Uncle Sam's official narrative, the cold, hard timeline they slid across a federal judge's desk, basically stating, here's the blood on the walls. Gucci, labeled as RD in the dockets for Radrick Davis, touched down in the city right around 1 p.m. Rolling in with his videographer, a homeboy, and 2 bodyguards. Wild twist. Though one of those guards, tagged as CW, he was actually an undercover cop. Anyway, Gucci showed up strictly for corporate business, renegotiation talks. Man just expected a boardroom chat. Spot was completely locked when they pulled up near 1:45 p.m. So the entourage hit the closest corner store, grabbed some liquor in those classic red cups, then kicked it outside. On the flip side, Shiesty Y's pops, Lontrell Williams Sr., was burning up the phones. He blew up the owner's line repeatedly, finally getting through at 2:53 p.m. to lock in some studio time. The cover story? Getting Shiesty Y and Gucci on a track together. The owner was clueless about the ambush. Man genuinely believed he was just turning on the mics for a regular session. Doors unlocked roughly at 3:15 p.m. Guwap and his entire entourage posted up in the lounge. They flipped on a football game and started pouring up liquor in those red cups. Fast forward to exactly 3:43 p.m. Shiesty Y, backed by 8 heavily armed goons, breaches the spot. Cameras catch one hitter stepping out quickly, pulling right back up with a bag strapped across his shoulder. That specific bag, it holds the key to the entire nightmare, but before the zipper even drops, the setup takes a detour. Reading the court docs with hindsight, purely cinematic. Just in the absolute worst, most gut-wrenching way possible. Shiesty Y requested a completely private conversation with Gucci, pointed straight at the actual vocal booth to hash things out, completely isolated from the crew. Gucci gave the nod. He stepped inside the glass. But the kid wasn't rolling solo. His pops and Big 30 squeezed into the booth too, making it a 3-on-1. Meanwhile, out in the control room, Gucci's 2 guys were suddenly boxed in by 6 of Shiesty's shooters. Nobody was there to talk business. This was a straight-up ambush. The board was set, and the trap slammed shut. Dead center in the booth, Shiesty Y yanked fresh contract termination documents out of nowhere, ordering Gucci to ink them. Dude literally had the paperwork pre-typed. The paperwork even details how cameras at a local Staples caught his dad walking into their print center just hours before the hit. Feds even pulled the receipts proving they paid for those exact copies. Plotted the entire extortion before they even touched the studio door handles. Guwap glanced at the dotted line and basically said, hell no. The second he refused, Shiesty Y caught an attitude, instantly sparking a massive screaming match. Through the glass, the videographer and Gucci's boy watched the body language turn completely toxic. That's exactly when Shiesty Y gave the signal. He barked at Big 30 to grab the duffel. 30 ducks out of the vocal booth, scoops the luggage, walks back in, and Shiesty Y yanks out a matte black mini AK, pressing that iron right in Gucci's face. Sign the damn papers. Gucci grabbed the pen. With Big 30 watching the door, another goon whipped out a phone, forcing Gucci to say on camera that the deal was officially dead. Then the dad actually checks the documents and complains they aren't dated, so Shiesty puts the heat back on, making Gucci write down the exact calendar date. Extortion wasn't enough. Shiesty Y reportedly stripped Guwap of his wedding band his icy watch, diamond studs, and pocket money. And while they were emptying his pockets in the glass room, the control board area turned into a war zone. The rest of the hit squad flashed their own steel, backing the cameraman and associate down to strip their valuables. One guy caught a vicious rear chokehold, strangled until he almost blacked out entirely, leaving brutal marks carved into his throat and wrists. They stuck him up and took everything: Rolex pieces, a Louis bag stuffed with heavy-hitting watches, AirPods, wallets, and that iconic 1017 chain. Big 30 literally posted up at the studio exit. He threw his whole body against the door. Nobody was getting out. Meanwhile, the undercover muscle chilling in the lobby, a guy actually trained by law enforcement, tried breaching the room alongside his partner. They cracked the door, took one look at the sheer firepower and the numbers against them, and immediately fell back. Word is one of Shiesty's shooters actually wanted to let off shots. The paperwork says Shiesty told his boys straight up, "Don't shoot." After the crew finally cleared out, Gucci ordered his personal security to walk the victims to their ride. The stick-up boys dipped through another exit and vanished. Honestly, the aftermath of this mess is just as wild as the actual robbery. Barely a few hours passed before these guys jumped straight on the internet, posting flashy videos and pics, showing off those exact stolen rollies and chains. Literally dry snitching on themselves in real time on totally public accounts. Plus, they didn't realize that snatched Louis bag had an AirTag buried inside. Detectives rode that AirTag data straight from the victim's phone, tracking the bag's last ping all the way down to the Dallas area. And those red Solo cups they were just casually sipping from while chilling and waiting for Gucci to show up, the FBI pulled fresh fingerprints right off the plastic, ran them, and got dead ringer matches for 2 suspects. Turns out, Shiesty's own pops rented the Buick Enclave they used for the hit. The feds hit Hertz with a subpoena. The rental spot replied that very same day, coughing up GPS logs that perfectly matched the traffic cameras tracking them fleeing the scene. Cell towers painted the whole picture. Shiesty, Big 30, and the crew rode together from Memphis to Dallas, sliding out on January 8th and touching down early January 9th. A 6-hour road trip with the whole robbery mapped out. The day after the stick-up, a bunch of the crew hopped a Greyhound right back out to Memphis. Bus logs proved they made the trip, while the rest simply drove. Now, one of those getaway rides, a crazy Dodge Charger Hellcat under his dad's name, mysteriously got reported stolen outside a Dallas hotel on the morning of January 11th. But the real nail in the coffin? Shiesty's ankle monitor data. That little piece of electronic jewelry put him squarely at the crime scene right when it all went down. The feds didn't even need a rat to place him there. His own court-mandated GPS tracker did all the talking. Once the indictments dropped on April 2nd, internet chatter instantly ripped right down the middle. Half the timeline was stressing over Pooh Shiesty. The rest locked in on Gucci Mane, asking that one massive question hip-hop culture always jumps to first in these situations. Did he snitch? Gucci hopped straight on IG Live, puffing his chest out. He made it crystal clear he doesn't mess around with the police. Street business stays in the streets, he claimed. Definitely not in a precinct. Then he kept flexing pictures of his ice. He was throwing subliminals around, even dropping heavy threats like, "Bet you won't survive the year." His loyalists, especially his inner circle, fought the snitch label tooth and nail. They argued Gucci got victimized, and honestly, the feds had so much independent evidence that it didn't even matter anyway. Defending him against those snitch allegations is pretty simple math. The feds had GPS ankle monitors, deep cover cops planted right there, high-def security cameras, traffic scanners, rental vehicle trackers, fresh fingerprints, and Apple AirTag pings. Add in social media scraping and Greyhound receipts. Gucci pointing a finger at some IG post absolutely did not build this indictment. They had them dead to rights before anybody even dialed a defense attorney. But logic doesn't go viral like a juicy screenshot does, so the internet keeps arguing. But you know what isn't up for debate? The brutal legal nightmare Pooh Shiesty is currently staring down. That forced contract termination, the whole supposed motive behind this crazy standoff, is practically worthless in a courtroom. Basic law completely shreds any paperwork inked with a gun to your head. Duress kills consent. Shiesty didn't magically break his deal doing this. All he bought himself was another cell. The man just finished doing 3 years in the feds. He dropped a viral smash hit. Promoters were throwing $150,000 to $200,000 a night at him. The rap game was watching. The trenches were rooting for him. He had the perfect setup after surviving a bid, and he just flushed it all down the drain. Not for money, not for clout. He crashed out over a useless piece of paper signed at gunpoint that no judge would ever validate. The feds are still working this active case. No trial date yet. Everyone is officially innocent until a jury says otherwise. But honestly, the amount of evidence they've already dumped on the public is staggering. And for a rapper already walking on federal supervised release, things are looking insanely dark right now. Pooh Shiesty literally held the world in his palms, and he gambled it all away on this madness. Think this story is absolutely insane? Make sure you hit up those other crazy videos popping up on your screen right now. Good looking out for watching. Catch you on the flip side.